In the summer of 1975, a 33-year-old artist pushed a tiny sailboat off the coast of Massachusetts and aimed it straight at the Atlantic. It was supposed to be the second act of a 3-part artwork, but that final act never happened, because somewhere out there, in the wide quiet of the ocean, the story simply stopped. And to understand why anyone would attempt something like this, you have to rewind back to the life that shaped a man willing to stake everything on the idea of a miracle. Bastian Ader's life reads like a poetic archive of longing and loss. Ader was born April 19, 1942, in Winschoten, Netherlands. Both of his parents were Calvinist ministers, and his father, also named Bastian, was executed by the Nazis in 1944 for helping Jews escape. As a youth, Ader studied painting and drawing at Amsterdam's prestigious Gerrit Rietveld Academy. By 1959, he had moved to Amsterdam, where he befriended fellow Dutch artist Herr van Elk. Ader settled in Los Angeles in 1962. He enrolled at Immaculate Heart College, a women's art college in LA, and later pursued graduate studies in philosophy at Claremont. He earned a BFA from Otis Art Institute in 1965 and an MFA from Claremont Graduate University in 1967. In California, he taught art briefly at several colleges. During these years, Ader integrated into the West Coast conceptual art scene in LA. He reconnected with Herr van Elk, with whom he founded the prankish magazine, Landslide. In Landslide, they published fake interviews with non-existent artists and jokes like expendable sculpture consisting of ordinary packing peanuts. Ader's Dutch roots and faith-inflicted upbringing infused his work with a spiritual sensibility. The project that would consume his last years was even titled In Search of the Miraculous, a reference to P.D. Ouspensky's book, signaling a quest for meaning beyond the everyday. At the same time, his practice was thoroughly conceptual. He often documented simple actions on film or in photos. His work balanced deadpan humor with a personal, even autobiographical edge. Critics have called it romantic conceptualism, art that literally speaks for itself, yet brims with emotion. Ader's early solo performances often focused on the act of falling. In these brief films, he would appear alone on screen and literally tumble, usually to self-imposed limits. For example, Fall 1, Los Angeles, in which Ader sits on a chair on his own rooftop in Claremont, California. He slowly pushes the chair backward until both chair and artist crash down onto the ground below. In Fall 2, he rides a bicycle down Dutch Street and veers directly into a canal. Any humor in these stunts is hauntingly offset by their violence. Other films from this period include him hanging limply from a tree branch until it snaps. All of these short films end abruptly, the instant Ader hits the ground or water. One of Ader's best-known works is I'm Too Sad to Tell You. This is a silent black and white 3-minute film in which the camera focuses on Ader's anguished face as he breaks into inconsolable crying. In the context of the 1970s conceptual art, which often eschewed emotion, Ader's open melancholy was striking. Still images from the film were printed and used as postcards. Ader mailed the still image postcard with the words "I'm too sad to tell you" to dozens of his friends. Another key work is Please Don't Leave Me, a wall installation created in his Claremont studio. The phrase "Please Don't Leave Me" is hand-painted in block letters on a white gallery wall, punctuated by a strand of hanging light bulbs that glow softly down its center. Curator's notes explain the piece speaks of loss, abandonment, melancholy, and pathos. Its effect is deliberately ambiguous. And in 1970, Light Vulnerable Objects Threatened by 8 Cement Bricks, a performance/installation rarely exhibited, in which a fragile object is menaced by falling bricks. Each of these works is spare and direct, yet loaded with emotion. For example, one of his unexecuted proposals was chillingly titled, "My Body Practicing Having Been Drowned," a conceptual idea that, tragically, foreshadows what would happen. In 1973, Ader launched his final and most ambitious project, a 3-part durational performance called In Search of the Miraculous. The first part, One Night in Los Angeles, was already completed in early 73, a series of small black and white photographs showing Ader prowling around the streets of LA with a flashlight, as if searching for something unseen. On these prints he inscribed lyrics from Searchin' by the Coasters. The second part of the trilogy was to be Ader's ocean voyage. In July 1975, he departed Cape Cod, Massachusetts, alone in a tiny sailboat around 13 feet. Ocean Wave was bound for Chatham, England. He had crafted the boat himself and aimed to set a record as the smallest vessel ever to make the Atlantic crossing. His wife, Mary Sue, described the launch. She towed him out by motorboat and shouted her love until he was beyond earshot. He was 33 years old. Radio contact with Ocean Wave broke off just 3 weeks into the journey. When no word came, family and friends grew alarmed. Nearly a year after the departure, Interpol finally contacted Mary Sue. A Spanish fishing trawler had found the Ocean Wave adrift off the Irish coast. Ader's empty boat was discovered on April 18, 1976. The vessel's mast and rigging were missing, and there was a jagged hole in the rear bulkhead, which is where Ader's safety line would have been attached. Otherwise, it still contained personal belongings, charts, navigation instruments, an uneaten loaf of bread, but no Bastian Ader. In the months afterward, friends had found evidence of his third planned act. Ader had arranged for a choir to sing sea shanties on the day he arrived. With Ader gone, In Search of the Miraculous remained forever unfinished. Officially, Ader was declared lost at sea. Archivists and scholars have pieced together the facts from his notes and from the investigation of the boat. Ader had believed completely in his voyage. His wife later wrote that he laughed off their fears, whispering no ocean can get in the way of their love. Yet in the end, the sea, cruel and unforgiving, carried him away. In summary, Bastian Ader's art sits at the crossroad of conceptual rigor and personal emotion. Many of his performative pieces can be read as metaphors for trust, failure, and humility. Gallery notes observe that Ader's work breached the ratio of the conceptual with aspects of the autobiographical, emotional, irrational, poetic, and even sentimental. He was a Dutch conceptualist who brought grief and mystery into a field often characterized by cool detachment, echo the Dutch landscape tradition, but filtered through the lens of 1970s California. Ader produced only about 35 works in total over his short career. He presented himself in every piece, so that his small catalog feels intensely autobiographical. The combination of intimacy and mystery has continued to captivate viewers. Since the 1990s, there has been a resurgence of interest. Ader's works have been shown in major museums worldwide, and retrospective exhibitions have traveled from Rotterdam to Fort Worth. The ocean took Ader, but his film and photographs of falling figures and tear-stained faces remain as a testament to the human search for the miraculous.